Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our channel, Paws On Animation.
And today we're covering the CBS series Young Sheldon with Rascal Family member returning Shinigami Sean.
Guys, I'm back.
So this is a prequel series to the popular sitcom Big Bang Theory, showing the life of Sheldon Cooper and his family growing up in Texas. It may sound simple, but it's full of heart and laughs. But
before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and notification based on future podcasts and World of Paws videos.
Thank you so much for joining us today, sharing our videos, commenting, and so much more. As always, we appreciate everything you do.
Yes.
So we have to give you full disclosure. We knew about this show, but had never watched it or considered watching it. And then on X, I'll call it the proper name, Shinigami Sean was making posts about how sad he was going to be that it was ending. And I kept seeing his posts and him saying how much he loved it. I'm like, maybe I could give it a try and see what we think.
Yeah.
And then I watched the first episode by myself, and by the end of the episode, I was hooked. It was all over.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. So thank you for suggesting and recommending it to us, first of all.
I'm glad you like it. And yeah, the Young Sheldon, it's really just an amazing show that I love so much ever since it aired back in 2017.
Yeah, and now you see why it lasted so long.
Which is a great lead-in. For those of you not familiar with Young Sheldon, it was a series created by Chuck Lorre and Stephen Malaro, and as Sean mentioned, it aired in September of 2017 through May 16th of 2024. It had 141 episodes.
Wow.
7 seasons.
Yep.
The opening theme is pretty neat, and I want to mention that because when we finally realized that we were stunned, the opening theme is called Mighty Little Man, sung by Steve Burns, otherwise known as Steve from Blue's Clues.
Yay!
Can't believe he was in it.
Yeah, that was one of the best surprises.
Him singing the theme song was wow, and then him being in it was even like
Yes.
a double header. We were like, oh my god.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yep.
And even though it was 7 seasons, I think people were just surprised how long it lasted. And I get why people were sad to see that it ended. And it felt like it got canceled prematurely because every time we were going to watch this season 7, it was having some odd episodes in terms of plot lines kind of being cut out or not going back to. They made a lot of changes. And I think that it was probably meant to lead up all the way to maybe Sheldon growing up because he went to his college of choice. And when you see it end, he's just going there. So I think we were meant to see him go all the way up to the time Big Bang Theory, and then it was unfortunately cut short because of also the 7th season was the shortest season of the series.
Now, since we watched it after the series ended, we want to get at this moment what your impression was when you first saw it, and how do you think it did being a quick prequel to the Big Bang Theory, which you've told me you've also been watching.
Well, to me, Young Sheldon, I really loved this show a lot. And yes, I have seen some fans, argue over it about, some of the changes. But to me, Young Sheldon, when it first aired, I felt really connected with that show. Like, it was speaking to me.
Okay. It was a very relatable show then.
And tell us why.
And Young Sheldon, I grew up with a family like Sheldon Cooper. I had a little sister that was just like Missy, but her and I, we weren't born as twins, of course.
But you look like twins.
Right.
Yes, that is true. And the relationship that Sheldon and Missy had was a lot like me and my little sisters. And I felt really connected there.
Oh, okay.
And what I liked about that, now that you've mentioned, is we got to see it develop from the beginning all the way to the end of the series. And it really was fantastic seeing them actually grow up in real life.
Yes.
When we first saw it, the star, Ian Armitage, who portrayed Sheldon, he was so adorable. I don't understand the hate that we were seeing online for this character.
Yeah.
He's absolutely adorable. where he's arrogant, where he's that was
he's
part of his charm.
He's like this the whole time,
It was part
clearly.
of his charm because he had this attitude about his intelligence and brilliance, but he had a different way in which he dealt with his sister, a different way he dealt with his brother, George Jr.,
Yes.
a different way he dealt with his dad,
Yes.
and he loved his mama. And I think that part of that, when I saw that first episode, and we learned that Sheldon doesn't believe in God, but he sits at the
and
table.
He's like all scientists who think there's no such thing as supernatural forces. There's only science.
And he sits at the table and holds hand, joined in prayer. And they said, well, you don't believe in God. Why are you praying with your mom? I don't believe in him, but I love my mom. I was like, oh, that's it. That's it. They got me. They got me.
Part of them.
Yes.
Yes.
And I don't understand, again, the hate that we saw. We've seen videos where people just trash this show and trash the character,
and
we
Big Bang
don't
Theory,
understand why. Because it's a brilliant show. It was a lovely show. My only qualm would be how it ended, and we'll get to that. But all the way through the series, it was just smart and creative and sassy.
Yes, and fun.
Yes, and clever. And the entire cast were fantastic actors. They chose these children for these roles, and they not only were fantastic as kids, but they grew into them. Yes. And it's just one of those shows that's not ever going to be duplicated. It's one of those things where it's magic, and it happens, and you're not going to do it again.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes, that is true. And of course, what I love most about Young Sheldon is, how many, hilarious scenes they put in there. And of course, Georgie Jr. getting, the character development on how he became a big success in Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Right.
And you like to see him grow. I mean, up until that last season and a half, you just saw all the things he was doing, but you could see he had a desire to become more and be more, even though he was doing all this crazy stuff.
Yes.
And he had you on the floor laughing at the way he was thinking about things, especially when he wanted to get the girl that was a Christian.
Yeah.
And went to get baptized, and he could see through her robe. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, George. It was like, what?
And he went to do it just so he could get with her. And he ended up losing her, but
all that,
it was funny, and you could see how these things would be realistic. People do crazy things,
right?
And kids do crazy things, so it wasn't so far-fetched that these things could not ever happen.
Right.
They could have, but the fact that it was all happening in this one family, was just brilliant. I like the extended family with Meemaw, Annie Potts. Awesome. Annie Potts was spectacular. You loved her even more after watching this.
Yes.
I can't even see this show having been a show without her. She became that intricate to me when watching. And I can definitely understand why she's your favorite character.
Yes.
Not to mention, Meemaw's character, she really reminded me of my own grandmother while I was watching the show with her.
Oh.
She was sassy then.
Yeah.
My own grandma, who really reminds me of Meemaw, she's a lot like, Meemaw. She's sassy, and of course she cursed so much.
Oh my gosh. It's not in my house.
But the development, I think, is also what made it special. You could see a progression. There was a storyline. Now, I do remember reading, you can tell us if this is true, that when it got to the last season, they had gotten canceled. So they kind of just rushed and came up with an ending, which I think is unfortunate, because I would have loved to have seen it on more years and grow. I really didn't like the ending. Of course, I didn't, and it's no spoiler, the show's over.
Yeah.
I hated that George got taken out that way. I hated that's how it ended. And for me, that is one of the two flaws of the show, is one, him being taken out the way they did, and two, I didn't like Meemaw breaking up with the
Dr. What was his name?
Dr. Sturgis.
Yes!
Sturgis. Oh my gosh, he was actually a great addition too for a long time.
And I bet they didn't see that coming where people actually like them as a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was it when it originally aired? Was it a really popular show?
Yeah, it was a really popular show and one of the best late 2010 sitcoms all the way to 2020s.
Oh wow. Okay.
And what did the people generally think of the ship between Mima
And
and
Sturgis.
That ship I did follow for a while, and I really endorsed that ship so much.
Okay.
I really loved them together, especially since both actors were also voicing characters from Toy Story as well.
Right. So it's like a in joke if you watch those movies.
Yes, definitely. So the
Yeah.
cast was pretty big, and they kept adding new people as it went on. They had a lot of guest stars, of course. And it seemed to be well received by Rotten Tomatoes, who wasn't rotten at the time, but they now are, getting a 76% approval rating and averaging 6.6
Mhm.
based on 46 reviews. Metacritic gave it a 63 out of 100. And I think, personally, the scores were too low. They should have
Yeah.
been higher.
Yeah.
They deserved a lot higher scores and better scores, especially staying on 7 seasons
Yeah.
is not an easy feat. That means people were loving the show and tuning in.
Right.
And you can tell by the viewers that it was. In the first season, it averaged 17 million viewers a
Mhm.
week. It dropped in season 2 down to 10.58 million.
Oh.
And then it began to decline 8 million, 6 million,
Oh.
7 million. But that's the same thing that happened to Supernatural on the CW.
Yeah.
But they had a dedicated fan base and people who watched every episode like us.
Right.
I think the same happened with Sheldon. And I don't think it's fair that networks base whether they keep a show or not on that viewer feedback.
Right.
Because if you've got 7 million to 8 million people tuning into your network every week at the same time to watch a show, that means it's loved and you should keep it on.
Yes.
Yeah. Especially since, yeah, it was also on Paramount, which is weird when it's not a when it's not a Paramount production, it's a Warner Bros. Production.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of cuts off access for a lot of people because
Right.
Paramount and some of these others are not as flexible as Netflix and other services where you can kind of see it easily. These people have some big restrictions, so yeah, I think that hurt even people want to rewatch it outside of TV.
Now, it originally aired on CBS, correct? The same station
Yes,
as
it
Big
did.
Bang Theory?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, and CBS has a history also of canceling shows that have a dedicated fan base. It's just
Yeah.
something they do. And clearly, it doesn't matter how popular a show is. When they're ready to cut it off, they're going to cut it
Pretty
off. And
much,
that's
yeah.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
So,
Same thing happened with Foster's and Victoria's and more.
Yeah. With it, like we said, very few flaws. It was a really fun show from start to finish. And not only do they have a great cast of characters with the family, and some of the students there, the neighbors, the teachers, and ones they're adding later, they also had a plethora of guest stars showing up, where they were in the show themselves as becoming main cast members, or they were guest appearances for episodes.
and another reason
Yeah.
that we thought it really fit for this channel is because, well, Sheldon was a big nerd.
Yes, and you saw
And-
how he became a nerd.
Yes, and you saw how he got into comic
Yeah.
books and loving them and the Flash and the characters. And you saw how he had his little rivalry with, I'm just going to call him Steve.
Right.
And that really fits so well into it. And then you could see if you hadn't watched Big Bang Theory, like we hadn't, except for a couple of guest episodes with Stan Lee and Adam West
Mhm.
and Will Wheaton,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
he developed that love of comics into his adulthood. So
Yes.
I love that they added that.
Yes. And one thing I liked in addition with the comic book thing is that they kept true to what the comic book shop was back
Right.
in the time that Sheldon is in his age, because they were the go-to places for these comics, and yeah, they're treated as this weird little thing you do long before they became blockbusters. And they will always have these parts where they would see how much do you actually know about this comic or this character, comics in general. And it pissed everybody off, including me, that Missy got to work there.
Yes!
And she didn't know a dang thing about comics, but she knew just enough to get the job, and it was infuriating. It was like, you don't read comics!
And her mind was replaying little things Sheldon had said and saving her.
Yes.
Like Slumdog Millionaire.
Yes. Oh, man. And,
So, tell us, Shinigami Sean. We know your favorite
Yes.
character is Mima. Tell us some of your favorite moments from this series.
I think my favorite moments is from the show was, of course, my top 5 favorite moments, of course, was at 5 I would choose the bond, but at number 1, it's definitely the relationship between Sheldon and his mother.
Yes.
mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It really reminds me of my own mother and I's relationship.
Okay.
How, she took care of me.
Okay, and your second favorite moment?
And my second favorite moment from the show is, of course, the time when Mima introduced Sheldon to video games.
Yes.
Oh, yes, that was a great one. That was a great one. It's her fault.
Yeah, that's how I got introduced by video games, but it was from my brothers.
Oh.
And it was Resident Evil 4.
Okay.
And what would you say is your third top favorite moment?
My third favorite top moment would be, of course, Georgie becoming a mature man as he grows character development throughout the seasons.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
And we definitely have to agree with you on that.
Yeah, he became such a different character, yeah.
And Georgie just really reminds me of my 2 older brothers as well that I had.
I think it's fantastic when you can watch a series and you can see your own family within it and relate.
Like the
And that-
Mitchells.
Yes, and that happens more often than you would think.
Mm-hmm.
So we can definitely now hearing more and more about your favorites, why this show meant so much to you,
Mm-hmm.
and why you were really sad when it ended.
Right.
Yeah, it's ending, it really had me sad feels, because when I heard about, George's dad's death and everyone,
Yeah.
it really made me sad. It
Yeah.
reminded me of the time,
We were too, and remember we were watching it after it already had ended.
Right.
But it still affected us the same way.
Yeah, because it just hit.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you find out he's gone, and the show just gets quiet from that point on.
I think 2 important things happened, I can say, with that. One is the episode after that where Sheldon kept replaying in his head what he could have done differently, all different outcomes, what he could have said to him. And if you thought up to that point Sheldon didn't care or love his dad,
Right, 'cause
they
it was
showed
scary.
you with the things he was saying that he did. And the second thing is, I have to say I really did like they didn't try to make him a perfect character at the end.
Mm-hmm.
When they had the funeral and they offered for him to go up and give the eulogy and say something. You saw where he went up and said something and it was perfect. Then he said, I would have liked to have said that's what I did, but I didn't. I didn't go up. I think it was important because it would have been out of character if they had done it that way.
Mhm.
But by letting you see what went on in his head and what he hoped it happened, then again, you know that he really loved his dad.
Yeah.
And I do like the way that was portrayed.
Yes.
Yeah, that really betrayed me as well at my grandmother's funeral, saying that I wish I did say all those things I wanted to say about her, but I didn't.
Right. And the one moment I did like before it got to that point of the series towards the end is they always made it seem like, the dad didn't kind of, he didn't understand Sheldon because he had all his little weird things going on, especially when it came to comics and stuff. But he always like, well, if you want to do this, you can. I'll help you if you want or something. He tried his best. every now and then. And then there was one day where Sheldon apparently wrote an episode of Star Trek that ended up being in the actual series. They're saying he came up with it about the Worf.
Yeah.
And he was writing it in, and he said, I want to read you this episode that I wrote. And you're thinking, okay, he doesn't care. He said, yeah, as long as I can still do my other stuff, go ahead. And he's telling this whole thing of what happened. And by the end, you expect him to say something stupid, or he didn't hear, you blocked him out. So he said, okay, so what do you think? He said, well, if this Captain Worf guy is really intelligent, why didn't he do so-and-so to use the time warp to go ahead instead of going backwards? And his Sheldon just stared at him. He's like, that's brilliant! It was like he was paying attention that whole time. He listened.
Yeah. So I think it also showed that all families aren't perfect. And I love that the way they were perfect in their imperfection, because they loved each other.
Yes.
Even Missy, with the crap she would say to him when he went to stay at the dorm at first, and he wasn't there sleeping in the bed, and she was so sad, and you were like, all that crap you say to him and about him, and she missed him, and it was like, you know, they love each other, and amidst all this craziness, they love each other, and you see it.
Yes.
And I really liked that message came across.
Yeah.
And you know, there are lots of families in real life that come off with craziness and like Kardashians in real life and so forth. But I do love when you find out they love each other. Amidst everything that's going on, do something to one of them, have a crisis happen or some crap come up, and you find out these people love each other. And that's how it was for young Sheldon in that series.
Yeah, and plus Missy, Georgie, and Sheldon's rebellious sides, I really, reminded me of my own times of when I was rebellious.
So let's quickly go through the main cast. We had Ian Armitage as Sheldon Lee Cooper. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. And he was brilliantly cast.
Yes.
I mean, Jim Parsons is like, okay, if he were a little boy playing Sheldon, he would be just like this.
Yes.
And the last thing I forgot to mention is I liked at the end when Sheldon and I don't know his wife's name. What was his wife's name in Big Bang Theory?
Oh, Amy.
Amy appeared in the last episode. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
It was perfect. We enjoyed it. Not even being to that level and watching the series, but just seeing their relationship and how she deals with him and he deals with her, and how he's still himself. That was brilliant, adding that last episode.
Yes.
It was absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
We had Zoe Perry as Mary Cooper, the mother of Sheldon.
Yeah.
And of course, Zoe Perry is the daughter who played the old Mary in Big Bang Theory.
Wow!
Oh, that was
awesome.
genius.
Yes.
That's genius.
And
Genius casting.
yes, Lance Barber as George Cooper Sr., the father of Sheldon. Well, the father of the three kids. Montana Jordan as George Marshall or Georgie Cooper. Reagan Revord as Melissa or Missy Cooper. And we didn't know at first they were twins.
Yeah, we did. We seriously did.
And when they said one episode, well, we're twins, like, what?
What?
Of course, Annie Potts as Connie Tucker, the maternal grandmother of Sheldon. And she was brilliant, and this is one of her best roles. She has 3 standout roles now. One for Ghostbusters.
Yes.
One for Designing Women, and now one for Young Sheldon.
Yes.
Emily Osment as Amanda, who became a regular season 6 and 7 and had a recurring role in season 5. Right. It's a recurring role in 5, but she became a permanent member of season 6 and 7. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, and I remember her from Hannah Montana, of course.
Yeah, we did too immediately.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's Haley Joel's sister.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
I see dead people. That's his sister. Wyatt McClure as Billy Sparks, and Matt Hobby as Pastor Jeff Difford. Now we knew watching this that he was supposed to be a parody of Joe Osteen, Lakewood Church. It was obvious. It was taking place in Texas. The way he spoke and how he looked
happy
and acted,
demeanor,
and we were like, okay, they're parodying Joe Osteen.
Yes.
What was funny when you think about it is this took place in the 80s, correct?
Yes.
And His dad was the pastor, not him.
Right.
But they chose him to base the character on. So
Right.
we thought that was pretty clever.
Right.
And then the last characters we want to mention are Wallace Shawn as John Sturgis, who seemed like he was a favorite,
Yeah.
1 through 3. Ryan Fong as Tam Nguyen, who was Sheldon's friend, his only friend.
Yes, only
at school
friend.
for a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you also had Mr. Incredible.
Yes, showtime. Yes,
Craig
he was-
T. Nelson.
That's him. Yeah.
And he was the second boyfriend of Meemaw. And he was brilliant in here too.
Yes, he was.
He used to be in a show called Coach that our Nana used to watch. And I was familiar with him from that.
Oh,
and
so
talked
that's
about
an
it
in joke too.
Yes. Before he did The Incredible. So this was a perfect role. And then you had Ed Begley Jr. as Dr. Linkletter, who was
Oh my God.
his competition, not his competition, but Sturgis's competition for
Right.
Meemaw.
Yes.
And Meemaw got around, that's all I'll say.
That's it. Yeah.
But the cast is so long and the guests are so varied. And it seems like everyone they chose to be a secondary character or to make a guest appearance was perfect.
Mhm.
There was not one time you watched and went, why is this person on the show?
Right.
Or this person isn't doing a good job, or they don't fit, or no. Every casting was fantastic.
Yes.
Yes. And McKenna Grace was on here too.
Yes, we
Yes,
saw
she
that.
was. She was. So yeah, we can see how this made an impact just as much as Big Bang Theory. And we understand Big Bang Theory is on much longer, but this is the same universe and a prequel, so it's just another addition to go to. Is I guess this
Right.
little universe that the show has.
So currently we are watching Big Bang Theory season 2 in order,
Yeah.
and we plan on finishing it. So we will have a podcast for you on that when we're done.
Yes.
And currently there is a spinoff that premiered in October of 2024
Mhm.
called Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage.
Yes, and it's a really good show so far.
You've
Right.
watched it. Awesome. Tell
Good.
us a little about it, and then we'll wrap it up.
Alright. Georgie and Mandy's first marriage. I really enjoyed, that it's taking place after Sheldon went to college, and of course it has the classic laugh track in the background this time.
Oh, it does,
Really?
huh?
Okay. Because the single camera
Yeah.
filming for Sheldon
And-
was brilliant.
And they were happy there was no laugh track, so
Right.
kind of weird they went back to that for here. Okay.
Is it working so far? Do you think it's doing great in being a sequel right now?
To me, it is, but I really do want the show to succeed.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll probably check it out after watching Big Bang Theory, or maybe somewhere down the line soon.
Right.
We'll watch a couple of episodes and see what we think.
Right.
So,
Alright.
what's the last thing that you want to say about this show, Shinigami Sean, that you want to share with everyone listening?
They have Reba on here as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they also have the voice of Ida from Owl House as President Hagemeyer. And they have Francis Conroy from the Mona.
Yes. Yeah. We couldn't believe how many guest stars they had.
Mhm.
And our favorites still are Steve Burns, not just singing but also appearing in there. And what's his name? Christopher Judge, is that the name? Or no, Craig T. Nelson.
Craig
I'm
T.
sorry.
Nelson.
Craig T. Nelson becoming a main part of the cast, and a few more. Because they didn't have Will Wheaton on there. He wouldn't come till Big Bang Theory. But we really love the vast amount of guest stars.
I like
on
Will
each episode.
Sasso as Mandy's dad. I really
Yeah.
loved him. And I liked Ray Liotta as Meemaw's bookie.
Yes. And you're like, oh gosh.
And all I kept thinking of was Goodfellas.
Yes.
That's all I was thinking of. I'm like, this is just brilliant.
Yes.
So, Rascal, what is the last thing you want to share about this series?
Yes. I think for ones who want to see it where they like Big Bang Theory or they don't, for the ones who do, it's a great prequel to it. This is one of the rare times where the prequel is done fantastically. And for ones who can't stand Big Bang Theory, you might like Young Sheldon more because it's a different format. It tries to have more pull at the heartstring type moments, more of the family dynamic rather than the friend and nerd dynamic. And there's no laugh track in case you don't like that. But it's maybe two different ways of making a show. but it somehow complements each other being in the same universe. One is just laugh out loud sitcom. This one's laugh out loud family wholesomeness, pretty much, for a majority of the series.
True. And
And
so the last thing I would like to say that left a lasting impression is how they casted someone who was just so perfect for the role. And seeing him grow into the young man he became, and he never lost a beat. He stayed perfect to truly representing the character.
Yes.
And making you just love him. I
Yeah.
absolutely adore him. If he's ever in anything else, I would just watch it because he's in it. And how he was able to, at the young age he was hired, to act with each adult that was there and be fantastic at it.
Yeah.
And that was the lasting impression for me. That's one of those perfect castings that's just rare. And I think that if CBS did more of that,
Yeah.
they'd have more hit shows. But hey,
Yeah, what do we know?
I'm just some girl. So if you've seen Young Sheldon, let us know in the comments. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you watch it to the end? Did you watch it when it originally aired, or as we did after it had concluded?
Right.
Let us know. If you haven't seen it, we recommend you watch it. It's on the CBS stream. It's
Yes,
on
Netflix,
demand. Netflix.
For the first 6 seasons. You have to go to CBS for the final one.
Right. Give it a
Yeah.
watch. Come back, tell us what you think. Watch it for yourself. We guarantee you'll love it. Come back, tell us what you think.
Right. And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates and weekly videos for anime series, anime shows, all things animation, and I guess Big Bang Theory stuff too now.
And be sure to visit Shinigami Phoenix or Shinigami Sean's channel
yeah.
for all types of content,
Yes.
videos, MEP parts, and so much more.
Yes.
You won't be disappointed, and be sure to give him a subscribe as well.
Yes.
And thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you again recommending the show and asking and recommending that we cover it.
Yes.
This has been a lot of fun, and we look forward to doing the Big Bang Theory next because that show is absolutely brilliant as well.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Lastly, thank you so much for joining us today, subscribing to all of our channels,
Yes.
sharing all of our videos, and so much more. As always,
You are special. Thanks.
Thank you, girls.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm Rascal Entertainment.
I'm Mom Entertainments.
And I'm Shinigami Phoenix.
Have a toontastic day.
Peace.